I have like three devices here, so I don't know what occurred. Mine. Okay. There, there, here. There we go. There we go. Good evening, everybody. We have such a treat before us tonight. We have this awesome, beautiful young lady before us. She is a wife, she is a marriage counselor, she is an author, she does podcasting, and she is also a retired psychology professor, none other than Miss Adina. Miss Adina Johnson, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. So, what led you into wanting to go into psychology?
Well, when I was 17, going off to college to a HBCU, I went to it was BCC back in the day. It's BCU now. But my first love was psychology. I wanted to be a youth counselor. And at the ripe old age of 17, I was like, I want to be a youth counselor. And I did. I was a youth counselor for 14 years. So that's what got me into it, and I just love everything about psychology. I loved everything, even teaching it for 20 years. I just really got into it. I loved it all.
So, you eventually became also a marriage counselor, you became an author.
Hmm.
The title of your book is entitled Butterfly Blue: The Pain of Infertility and the Power of Forgiveness.
That's correct.
So, talk to us about this book.
Well, my book, what happened was a lot of stuff happened with me trying to have my babies. And my husband, as a youth counselor, I just didn't want children because I saw too much. I was a very young youth counselor. I started about 18, 19. Right as I got in school, I started working with diversionary programs and youth, and just seeing some of the things that people did with kids. I didn't want any kids. So when I met my husband, I told him I didn't want kids, but heck, he was 21 and I was 24. So, we knew everything, right? So he came to me really close to our 8-year wedding anniversary. I said, over the years, I told him, I said, if you change your mind and want kids, let me know, because that was a sticking point for a lot of people for us. And they just were like, why don't y'all want kids? And we would tell them over and over, what the issue was and why we didn't want children biologically. And he came to me right before 4 months before my 36th birthday, after he finished his master's degree, and said, I think I want to have children. And I went, okay, what did you do with my husband? Because we talked about this. But I did tell him if he changed his mind to let me know. And so that's what he did. So at that point, we started the journey of trying to have children and realized that it wasn't just as easy as we thought it was. We thought you just, do what married folks do and you get pregnant. And it didn't quite happen like that for us. So this talks about my journey. I would always talk to people and tell them, I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book. And the last time I said that, I physically got sick. And prior to that, my editor kept saying, just write 30 minutes a day, just write 30 minutes a day. And I was talking to other authors and they were telling me, big butt in chair, get your butt in the chair and just write. And after I said that the last time, I got physically sick and I went home and I would put everybody to bed and write all night until I got it out. So after that, I got my book out in about, because I had been writing the whole time, I had been journaling. So at that point, I got my book out. It took a couple months, but it got out.
So, you wrote your book, and and you talked about your journey in your book. So, as far as the importance of counseling and mental wellness, um, clearly I don't know if it's a rise, but clearly we know that there's a lot of it going on in so many different areas of people's lives. It's happening to just a lot of people, women, men, teenagers. What insight or what advice could you give those who may be on the fence about the counseling?
Well, to be honest with you, it's always been a thing. We've always needed counseling. Being Black in America, you need counseling. So just the microaggressions that we get. And so I think it's just more prevalent now and people are talking about it more, but we've always needed mental health. We've always needed tools to help us with mental health. We just didn't. We did a charge or we just tried to, gloss over it. But we've always needed mental health, therapy, counseling. That's part of what we do as people. We congregate and we get with other people. And oftentimes, especially as women, we talk about what we're going through. So it's just that oftentimes we're talking to people who don't have the tools to help us process some of the stuff that we're going through. So it's just prevalent now, but I think everybody needs it. During COVID, I had everybody in my family to talk to someone. And the counselor that we talked to, she was like, "Get off my line." She was like, "Y'all don't have any problems. Get off my phone." And so it was okay because I was just like, let's see what we need. That's how I ended up being a marriage coach with my husband because when we got married, we knew that everybody around us had been divorced. So my question was, what was going to stop us from being in the same boat that we saw other people being in as far as being divorced? So we started with marriage coaching our first year of marriage. We went to a class and it was like an 8-week class called Monday Night Solution. And so every week we would go and get, just understand what marriage was, the origins of marriage and how it's designed. And once I kept bugging my clinical director, he became my clinical director because I was devouring everything he gave me because of the whole psychology aspect. And he finally said, "Why don't you get licensed and come and help me on my team?" And so that's what we did.
Wow, that is truly phenomenal. So with the marriage counseling as well, there are a lot of married couples that are going through ups and downs right now. Well, one party may want counseling, one party may not. Um, I feel like sometimes people confide too much in other people instead of just getting some type of help. But for those who may be on the rocks, or maybe somebody feel like they're being heard, or maybe somebody feel like their opinion don't matter, or whatever. What insight right now would you give those couples?
It's on a case by case basis. It just depends. Some people just need dates. Some people need therapy. Some people need to forgive. So it's just based on who it is, the couple. On our YouTube channel, it's Nick and Adina. We have a lot of tools on there just to help couples. If your partner doesn't want to do the work, there are tools on there where you can do it and they don't even have to know that you're using tools to help you with counseling. So it's out there. Our philosophy is teach everything you know. And so that's what we've done. So it's pretty much out there where you can do different type of communication techniques and your partner doesn't even necessarily have to know it, but it will help.
Wow, wow, wow. You talked about the word forgiveness. Forgiveness is a challenge for a lot of people in any aspect. Um, People really struggle just in general with forgiveness. I can't say if people want to forgive and don't know how. I don't know, or it could be that whatever occurred, it's just so people sometimes don't want to address things. So for those people who may be struggling with forgiveness in any aspect, where if you could tell them two places to start in their life on the forgiveness journey, what would those two?
I would encourage individuals to forgive themselves first, because we have to understand that forgiveness is a process and it is a selfish act. I forgive you so I can be okay. And that was one of the struggles I had with my dad, which is the power of forgiveness. I struggled with forgiving him. He and his spouse wrote me out of their will when I was 3 years old. So I'm like, how do you write a 3-year-old out of your will? But what I did was I felt like I couldn't be an effective parent until I walked through some of that pain. And so my dad actually helped me through that because I was honest and I told him what I needed or what I felt I needed at the time. And he did everything he could to give me what I needed. But I didn't need that. I had to realize that I did not need him. He didn't need to be a part of the forgiveness process for me. Forgiveness is a selfish act. I had to forgive him for me. And the process had nothing to do with him, unfortunately. So that's one of the things we have to realize is that forgiveness is a selfish act and forgiveness is for me, but also forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. So forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It's a selfish act. And number three, forgiveness is the person being a part of it is not required. So those are three things I would encourage individuals to recognize, because it's a process. I think oftentimes we think if we forgave somebody, it's over. It's almost like I went to the store, I forgave someone. It's not like that. On my podcast, Black Butterfly, Black Pearls, my podcast partner and I got triggered by a situation that I had forgiven. So she literally on our podcast walked me through me being triggered by an issue that happened where I had to forgive someone, and things will happen. It's a process. You will get triggered. So understand that, but be willing and ready to go through the process again, or being able to process your feelings. So that's so important. So I think I gave you four.
Wow, I like the fact that one thing that you said, all of it sticking out, but for me, the strongest highlight is forgiveness does not mean reconciliation.
No.
And I think by default, that's what we, some people, I'm not going to put everybody in one bowl together, but even a person as myself would automatically think that it initially means, okay, you're going to reconcile. So but prior, before you make a statement, you said forgiveness start with self.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the times, sometimes people don't want to deal with self. It's easy for me to deal with somebody else. Easy for a person to deal with somebody else versus dealing with self. So in dealing with self, the initial part of dealing with self, you say you have to forgive, start with self, but how do people even start with self?
I think we need to give ourselves some grace. First of all, let me just back up. When we were saying forgiveness is not reconciliation, forgiveness is not reconciliation because oftentimes if we reconcile with a person, they're not healthy enough to be in our life. So even though we've gone through the process to forgive them, they can trigger us and bring us back and continue some of the behaviors that we had to forgive in the first place. So oftentimes, just because I've done my work doesn't mean another person is healthy enough to be in my life. So part of me not forgetting and not being victimized again is keeping them over there, is not allowing them back in my space because they're not healthy enough to be there. So that's why forgiveness is not reconciliation, because it's not a good space and a good place for many times for individuals to bring someone into their life. And if you listen to the where I was processing where I had to forgive someone, they literally was not healthy enough to be in my life, and they wanted me to resolve them of some of the things they had done to me. By every time they see me, they're crying and they're asking me to hug them, and I'm like, no, 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 we're not doing that, you know? And so oftentimes people will guilt you and make you feel bad because they have done something to hurt you. So, yes, it is a selfish act. It is selfish because part of me forgiving someone else is so I don't walk around with the uh, anger and bitterness that could come about. So I have to oftentimes forgive them so I don't hold that weight.
Wow, thank you for that, because like I said, we that forgiveness word, you know, a lot of times we don't know, how to, and and maybe that's one probably one reason, one strong reason why counseling counseling is important. Um, and I want to ask this because you have been a professor. So I'm coming from a counseling angle. but I kind of want to ask this question. There was a situation, and this person would be okay with this. There was a situation, a young lady got smaller children, and the school kind of reached out to her about, you know, the children speaking to the counselor, and she was against it. She basically said, hey, I'll get outside counseling, you know, for my own children. What and just coming from your professional standpoint as a counselor strictly, what advice would you give parents though? If the school reaches out and say, hey, we have somebody they can talk to, I think this is okay. Parents not receptive to it, and sometimes parents will say they'll do things and they just may not pick it up, and not because they're avoiding it, literally because of time management, or just because they may be concerned about some other things. We never know. What would that advice be to any parent?
Well, here's the thing. You have to understand when you send your children to school, the school has an obligation. So the school has an obligation to help that kid if there's an area where they feel like they need help. So to flat out say you don't want them in counseling, that's almost like it's almost like, some religions don't allow medical attention. But we're not going to walk by and see a kid bleeding and not give them attention, medical attention. So it's almost the same thing. Oftentimes we feel like if someone is having a mental health challenge, that it's okay. We can just walk over it and not deal with it, but we have to deal with it. We have to deal with it because oftentimes that will bring on some other issues. My kids, I'm a counselor. I've been a counselor since the 90s. And there are times I literally went to my kid's school because I'm always in the school. I went to my kid's school a couple weeks ago and I couldn't find my kid because he was not in class. And I went to his teacher and I'm like, well, where is he? I said, if you have any more problems, she said he's not here. And so I started calling, different teachers and, other people that he would normally be with. Come to find out, he was with the counselor because my mother-in-law was going through some medical issues and he felt some kind of way about it. And so I just flat out told him, you have to tell somebody where you are. I don't have an issue with you seeing the counselor, but you have to be accountable and tell at least your teacher where you're going. So, I'm a proponent of counseling, 100%.
And I want to commend him for that also. And I commend you, and I commend him because um, a lot of um, young adults, teenage children, they as well don't sometimes don't want to be seen at school, going to do that. So I like that is just awesome. Um, just in more ways than than one, really, for me. And I'm glad you made the statement because, may I ask how old he is or what grade if you don't want to give the age?
He's 13 and he's in the eighth grade.
Well,
And so the issue that we were having, it was stressful and taxing on the whole family when you have a parent that's not doing well. And I didn't realize it was affecting him the way it was, because oftentimes we just don't know as parents. I mean, we're doing everything. And even though I've been married for 24 years, it's just at that time he didn't want to talk to us about it because he already felt the tension in the house about it. So him going to the counselor, I was fine with that. In fact, I like to give out gifts to his teachers, and she was one of the ones that we gave a gift to her during Valentine's Day because she helped out. She reached out and she's doing her job, but still, I think the teachers and counselors, they have so much. It's so heavy on them and everything they have to do with all the students. So yeah, we always encourage our kids to give and, brighten someone's day.
one other main thing I want to address that you mentioned, and I want to commend you for that as well. During COVID, you say you had your family make sure some, on the phone speaking to a counselor. I commend you for that, and I'm gonna tell you why. During COVID, there were truly a lot of people like going, right? I would tell people be careful what they pray for. A lot of people was having a fit to be at home, and COVID came through, and they didn't want to sit in that house past that first week. And then not only that, people were not able to go any. And I had a graduate that year from high school, 2020. Yes, some pandemic graduates. Actually, a daughter and a nephew, and I could say a niece because I got a very good friend girl, and her children to me are like nieces and nephews. And it's just it took a toll,
Mhm.
and we didn't know what to do. So we was allowing our children to work while they could work. If their jobs allowed them to work, everybody got out of school, everybody got out of school. That lunch still made it through school with honor. But also, I noticed that a lot of adults, me included, was having fits, just fits of almost this like I was in a space that I thought I wanted to be in. Then I got in that space and then I realized that I didn't want it that way. I wanted to be able to control it myself, and I could not control something. Then the issues with, everything else. And then once you get back to work after a couple of months, people was just mad because we had rules and guidelines, and there are a lot of people even now still struggling from 2020. A lot of people, I'm not going to say a lot of people gave up, but a lot of people's interest in certain things in regards to work, some people they interest truly shit.
Mhm.
So, if you could give somebody some form of enlightenment on maybe something to consider or something to do, to try to help bring them out of that, because grown people be traumatized and they don't want to look at it as trauma.
It's
Just
true.
what
There was
advice,
a
enlightenment would you give people?
it was touch and go during COVID. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted my family to see someone is because at the very beginning of COVID, my mom had COVID and she ended up having strokes from it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so that's why I wanted us to see somebody because, my husband and I, we were with her at the time. And I mean, literally, so we didn't know what it was. So yeah, I think individuals should
Mm-hmm.
get professional help. I mean, and I think too, women, we need time away. I think everybody needs that personal time, self-care time, time with their girlfriends. I think we try to go, go, go. But I think oftentimes as women, we don't stop and take a moment and say, hey, I need a me day. And so that's what I encourage everybody to do, even guys. My husband's going on a camping trip this weekend. Go, go for it. We're normally get our camper together and we go as a family, but that just is not working out this time. So I'm packing his bag. Go, have fun, enjoy yourself. It's a conference and they go camping every year. Usually we will be there, but we don't have to. And so everybody needs that individual me time. And so we encourage that. You need your girlfriend time. You need time to be with just other women to pour into each other and just spend time together. So I just encourage individuals to stop and understand, listen to their body, listen to themselves, and figure out what you need to help you further your day, help you move to the next stage, to the next phase. I have a good friend. My daughter goes to a meeting on Saturdays, and I'll call her up and say, "Let's do brunch." It's just she and I. So it's like pour into each other and let's walk each other through. I think one of the things that we're missing many times back in the day, we had a community, and we don't have community as much anymore. And so I encourage individuals to build your community and pour into each other and grow and learn. So, and it's okay. It's okay if you need girlfriends. I was the first one to say, "Oh, I don't need any friends," but I do. I need my community. I need my group. I need my tribe, so to speak.
I want to thank you so much for allowing, like, you have really helped in so many ways. looking down because I'm trying to share a little stuff with some people. But this is truly phenomenal. And like I said, I know your time is important, but I do want to tell you thank you. Hopefully, we can do this again. Please tell people where, once again, your podcast and also about your book or any other information that you want people to know before we get out for this.
My podcast is Black Butterfly, Black Pearls, and I have a podcast with my oldest friend. We've been friends since I was 6 and she was 5, so we've been friends for over 45 years. And so when I retired over the summer, I said, "Hey, I'm going to start a podcast." And she said, "I want to do it with you." And so it just really works because we know each other. We have a different language that we speak. Her son will listen to the podcast and he's like, "It's you." He's like, "Y'all were talking about stuff people don't even know what you're talking about because she's making faces. I'm cracking up. It's like a best." So I oftentimes walk in the house and say, "Hey, Alexa, play Black Butterfly, Black Pearls podcast." And there we are on Alexa. So it's fun. We have over 52 episodes so far, and we are having an amazing time. Our YouTube channel, and that's my husband and I, and it's Nick, N-I-K, and A-N-D, Adinah, A-D-I-N-A-H, and that's on YouTube, where we've given away many tools, and we talk quite extensively about forgiveness. We talk about communication. And then my book is Butterfly Blue, The Pain of Infertility and the Power of Forgiveness. It's on Amazon, and you usually have to just put in my name, because if you put in Blue Butterfly or Butterfly Blue, everything will pop up. So it's Adinah, Adinah Johnson.
And you gave me the link, and I'm going to make sure I send that link out as well. Thank you so much, Miss Adina. You have truly blessed me and blessed others. And hopefully this will not be the last time, but I thank you for coming in this time of evening. I thank you so much and I appreciate you. And once again, this is deeply an honor. Thank you so, so